Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of James Bond Bitcoin Live 0013. And today I have a new guest and a new person into the crypto space, basically mining. His name is Matthew, but you also go by the YouTube handle Son of a Tech.
Yes, son of a tech. My gamer tag is Blind Run, so a lot of times my intro is, "Hey, welcome. It's Blind Run with Son of a Tech." So, Son of a Tech is kind of an umbrella for all of the content.
Okay, excellent. And of course, Brian. Say hello, Brian.
Howdy, everybody.
All right, everybody knows who Brian is. He's my producer, by the way. So Brian has been promoted to a very good subscriber. He's been then up to a guest. Now he's my producer. So everyone congratulate Brian. So, all right, let's go back to Matthew here. Brian, did you want to start off with the question?
Well, yeah, I could start off. What I had initially wanted to talk to you about was something that I've talked about probably once every show, which is American mining and American miners, because of the fact that almost every single cryptocurrency's hash rate is controlled by China, and we need to not live under the threat of a separate blockchain or a split because of them. So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on what we might be able to do to bring about more mining here in America.
I think you'd have to break down the walls between the gamers and the miners right now, because that seems to be a pretty vicious battle going on in comment sections everywhere right now, between the gamers upset because the miners are running the GPUs out of stock. And that seems to be the biggest concern. If you could get some sort of pool that you could get gamers to get behind as well, and they had a decent payout without too much cost on their end while they were in the background, we'd probably have a lot more access to a lot more graphics cards to bring that up. But like I said, right now, it seems like what I get for the most part is a lot of gamers are pissed off because they're out of cards, which it seems a little silly, but I don't know if well, how would I put it? I don't know how valid that is, right? To get angry over it, at least. But
well, there are competitions, and you don't have peak performance on your PC, and you don't win, right?
Right. You can't afford to buy an RX 480, which is a $200 graphics card, for $750 on eBay right now, right? Yeah. You know, when the cost gets driven up and you can't upgrade your PCs, I guess that's what they get pissed off about, right? They want to be able to pay, retail for whatever the GPU is, not have to pay an exorbitant cost because they're out of stock.
So as a gamer who is ventured into mining a bit because of all of your experience with the graphics cards testing, how you propose we could bring down that wall?
It's something I have been thinking about this week a lot, mainly because I've been getting a lot of pretty harsh comments from a lot of gamers, and I was trying to figure out why. Most of them say you're stupid, you're just running your power costs and your AC bill costs up, and you won't make any profit, which you can run the numbers, and you do. So I don't.
Now this is coming from people who play games, right? And
correct.
They're telling, there's a group of gamers versus group of miners, and they're telling you that you're stupid for mining.
Yes. No, that is very common, and I can put I've actually been tweeting a few out there. They get pretty hilarious, but also pretty brutal. They get very passionate over it. I'm trying to figure out why, though, right? I'm trying to figure out what the basis of it is and how, because you asked a very good question. How would you break that wall down? You could sneak malware into like NVIDIA GeForce Experience and just have it mine in the background without them knowing. Pull a BitTorrent. I don't know.
That sounds like it might cement the wall further.
Make things worse. No, I just thought it was a funny idea. I don't know how you would may create like some sort of open source pool to make it easy for gamers to use. I mean, maybe releasing a miner through Steam would be a good idea. You know, a free miner that you release through Steam that's easy to use, that they just have to click play and it runs, and then it deposits some money into their Steam account or something like a Steam.
You're talking about the game Steam, STEAM.
The client Steam is a game retail client. It's from Valve, the guys that made Half-Life.
Yes. Yes. I
So,
just want to make sure, because I don't know if there's another cryptocurrency called Steam.
No, yeah, Steam it or something like that,
yeah,
right?
Steam.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to
no, I'm talking about Steam, actually using Steam desktop client. If you released a miner through there and then made it easy to use, that'd be a way to maybe reach gamers and actually be able to drive up the amount of people using, you know, the amount of hardware that's being used on the US side of things, because that's the only thing I could think of to get access to more hardware, right? That is a super interesting. I don't know. Do you have any statistics on like how much mining is going on in China compared to the States?
Well, the only thing I know is Bitcoin mining, or ASIC mining for the most part. I think a lot of Chinese miners out there, they're farms, like professional mining farms, and they're mining Bitcoin and Litecoin, which are both heavily ASIC intensive and produced mainly by one manufacturer over there.
But
I don't know if they're
that's
I don't know, dude. I don't know if they're doing any Ethereum mining or any GPU mining, but it doesn't seem like it, because their market seems to be Bitcoin and then Litecoin, and then now they're starting to trade Ethereum, but they may be late on the game on GPU mining, or maybe the beginning of ASIC mining for Ethereum.
Well, I mean, for them, it's all cost to effectiveness, right? So the ASICs miners are, as far as like space to I guess hash rate for pushing out Bitcoin, is a lot better than trying to throw a whole bunch of GPUs into something, right? I would assume, or a lot easier at least.
Well, could you tell us, since you have some mining experience, that what's like, can any coin, is it possible for any coin to go into an ASIC mining? I mean, lead up to it, because you said you were back in 2013, you were mining on your computer, your CPU.
Yeah, you could do some CPU mining and stuff. I think the difference with Ethereum, though, at least if I understand it correctly, is they require you to download the entire blockchain to the video memory, right? So that to move into ASICs, you would have to have ASICs machines that have fast access memory above 2 gigabytes, which they just don't make those. So I don't see it being practical for something like Ethereum, at least with my understanding of it, for mining it. I think it'll stay GPU based, because it's going to have that fast random access memory really close and ready to go, because it downloads the entire blockchain to the actual GPU. So it can, and then it pulls the code and runs the algorithm from there. But it's a little different than the way Bitcoin does, because I guess Bitcoin just assigns out the problem and then it comes back. Okay. If I understand it right.
Well, you're more of the miner than we are. I don't even mine at all, and I doubt Brian does in any way.
So you guys are just investors?
Yes.
Or okay.
I'm sorry.
You're just investors for the most part?
Yes, I trade peer to peer, and I've been doing this since 2013. Before, just started right before the price of Bitcoin went up to 1,000. So I bought my first Bitcoin for $250, and I got hooked ever since. And I've been trading peer to peer since then. And so Brian seems like he's gotten in recently.
Yeah, I've just been around since March, and just got a little bit of investment and thoroughly enjoy the space and the promise of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper and what is now cliche, but blockchain itself and its many utilizations.
Now, Matthew, let me ask you that. Your original channel was about gaming, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
but your recent video, or the last two of your most recent videos, was about Ethereum. Now, you don't really. I know you're into hardware, you're into gaming, you're into GPU. But what was the push to get into making a video about Ethereum? Because we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, and I mean, I can be as honest with it as possible. I mean, I just looked up what the fuss was about with all the GPUs disappearing. Because I get online one day and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a build for a gaming PC build for whatever for the channel, and I'm like, oh shit, all the graphics cards are out. What's going on there? And then I saw that they were going, $200, $189 graphics cards. I think I sold one as a test on eBay, and it went for like $389. And I bought it for like $160 2 years ago. So I was like, wow, that's nuts. Why? So then I was like, well, why is that happening? Immediately, what popped up was Ethereum. And so I was like, oh, cryptocurrency's back in force with, gaming graphics cards, because this only ever happened one other time before, and that was with Bitcoin. So then I did start looking into what was different about Ethereum, but mainly on the level or how it related to mining and graphics cards, because that's what I was interested in. I don't actually even know, and maybe you guys can answer this for me. I don't even know what they're using the Ethereum blockchain for. What I do know is like the caveats, or not caveats, or the nuances that make it different than Bitcoin for mining. And like I was talking about the DAG size and so on and so forth, and that being required to actual download to the graphics card.
That kind of scares me. I didn't quite understand. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right.
There's a cop car or something.
It's an alarm. I'm in the Bronx.
Gotcha.
I could be inside and you'd hear this. So, if the GPUs have to download the entire Ethereum blockchain and hold them in their memory, this is going to get out of hand, because the Ethereum blockchain has all of the ICOs running upon them and all of the new tokens that are coming out. So the GPUs are going to have to become bigger and bigger and hold more and more and more.
And have you seen how much if you go look up the chart for like the difficulty in mining for Ethereum, it's just grown exponentially in just like the last month. Like it's gotten way more difficult. Whereas, last year you could mine like a couple coins a day pretty easy, no problem. Now it's taking a week to get a coin on a 6 GPU rig, So it's gotten a lot more difficult. And yeah, you are right. As that grows, the cheaper hardware is going to get knocked off. You're not going to be able to use it. 2 gigabyte VRAM or 2 gigabyte graphics cards are done. You can't mine with them anymore. So you have to have 3 gigabytes or more. And it's projected that, and this was before the exponential growth. This was probably 2 months ago. It's projected that it would be above 3 gigs by April of 2018. And above 4 gigs by September of 2018. So it's grown a lot more than they expected it to. So I see it going past 4 gigs pretty quickly, and that's going to knock out most of the US or stateside miners, because most of them are running 4 gigabyte RX 470s, 570s, 480s and 580s. And that's just the standard that most of them are doing. A lot of them have invested into the 8 gigabyte cards as well, but a lot of the people that have just gotten in are going with the cheaper hardware. They're going to get knocked out because the size is going to get too large for them.
They're going to have to mine Ethereum Classic or one of the other like waves.
And a lot of miners mine Zcash and then invest in Ethereum. Yeah, so they mine Zcash and then turn it into Ethereum or Bitcoin.
And the reason I was asking about your YouTube channel was, compared to your other videos, when you made the video about Ethereum and Ethereum mining, did you notice a larger view count?
I had a big uptick, I think, for multiple reasons on the let's see, I think it was the 5 tips or 5 things I learned about from mining, and that had a big uptick. I think it's already at almost 30,000 views. And the views, yeah, I mean, I have a pretty small channel. I'm only around 4,000, something around there. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely had a big uptick. I do have some other videos, you know, a lot of graphics card reviews are up there, over 10,000, stuff like that. But yeah, for the time and everything, it was a big uptick. So I think there's a lot of interest in mining right now.
Well,
And
do you think it's an interest in mining? I mean, what community do you think is bigger, mining community or gaming community?
that's a good question. So I had initially the video had a lot of positive responses. Started getting a lot of negative response from some parts of the gaming crowd. Which one's larger? You know, with things like Twitch and so on and so forth, I would say gamers are a larger crowd, but that doesn't mean all gamers are against mining, right?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of crossover, especially in the media, as far as like there are a lot of tech tubers that are approaching mining now recently.
Well, the reason I ask is because I do notice a lot of videos on YouTube where when people talk about Ethereum specifically or a certain ICO coin that comes out on Ethereum, they tend to get a dramatically like a large amount of hits in a short period of time. Like they'll release a video in about 10 minutes and it already has like 1,000 views.
Right.
Which it's hard for me to believe that there's really that many people who are involved in the cryptocurrency space because it's really small, really tiny. I mean, all these people all of a sudden just hang out on YouTube and wait for an Ethereum video or an ICO token video to come out, and they all just watch that video. So I mean, it seems a little manipulated because if you compare it to other tokens or coins or altcoins that are talked about, they don't seem to get that many views. But when you talk about Ethereum, it seems to be like some kind of pumping going on. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think there might be some manipulation to get, because a lot of people get their
there might be a lot
YouTube.
of advertising that's going on with it, right? So, well, here's the thing though. The reason I think it is because it does mine best on gaming graphics cards. And as soon as those started going out of stock, gamers took notice, and then gamers started looking into mining again. I will say that. Like, I think like that's why, and because Ethereum is causing that, I think that's why Ethereum is being searched a lot more as a search term just in Google in general, right? And whenever something starts getting searched a lot, you know how YouTube works. YouTube starts forcing that content through everybody that's interested in that. So all of a sudden, the gamers start seeing Ethereum pop up in their sub boxes and their feeds and so on and so forth. And it just keeps kind of, it's a snowball effect after a certain point, right? So, but if I had to take a guess at why that happened and how Ethereum's getting, more traffic than any other coin currently, I would say because it was the coin that took away all the gamers' graphics cards.
so the gamers are wondering, why the hell is my graphics card out of stock? And they're finding out it's because it's Ethereum.
Right. And so then they're like, what the fuck is Ethereum? And they search it all, and then they figure out what's going on. And that's probably why it's trending so much.
So do you think that gamers, I'm sorry, Brian, did you want to say something, or okay. Do you think that gamers are slowly getting into mining? Because after all, you were a gamer and you made a mining rig and made a video about it. Are you making good money on it? Do you feel like this could be something that you can continue to do?
I am doing okay on it, meaning like it's not gonna make me quit my day job, right? It's not, and even if the heat's pretty bad, I have a shed out back. I'm thinking about like redoing the whole shed and just like figuring stuff out mainly. And I don't know if that's because I believe in Ethereum, but I have this thing where, like, if you watch my channel, you notice I go through phases, And when I'm trying to figure something out, I like to fully figure it out and then move on. So right now, this is my kick. And I guess it's coming at the right time because, like you said, it is getting a lot of hits and stuff like that. But I don't know, how would I put this? The difficulty of mining it is getting to the point to where it might not be worth mining after a certain point. Now there are other coins to mine and so on and so forth, but then you have to start taking into account energy costs and everything else. And if the cost of the coin, if I can't make a profit off of it because my AC and energy costs just in general go too high, then I'll just have to stop mining, right? So I think it's not so much the Ethereum or what they're doing with it than it is just the practicality of mining it or not, or if you can do it, right?
Right.
So
right. You're saying that you have no idea what Ethereum is, and you don't even know what it does. You just know that it costs like it's worth so much, and that's about it. And then you
right. I
find it
mean, I
kind of
know I can
interesting.
go to like Crypto Compare. I can benchmark my mining rig, see what hash rate it's getting, plop that into Crypto Compare, plop in my kilowatt an hour, and then see how much money I can make a month, right? Look at projected, increase of value of Ethereum through the end of the year and say, okay, and then if I hold on to it, this is possibly what it could be worth, right? I mean, when I did it with Bitcoin, I dropped all my Bitcoin at I think it was like 500 a coin or something like that. Still kicking myself after all that, if I would have just held on to it for like 5 years. But
Right. I mean, would you, from that experience about Bitcoin, would you hold on to your Ethereum, or would you like try to sell it or get
oh
into
yeah,
some
I'm
of
going to
these
hold
token
on
sales?
to it. So I've resolved that I'm just going to hold on to it for at least 5 years. Everything that I've mined. Now, if mining gets too difficult, then I'll quit mining it, find something else to mine. But whatever I mine, I've set in my head that I'm going to hold it for 5 years, no matter what, and then absorb the costs of all the energy and so on and so forth, and see what happens. Right. Just because it's worth taking a risk on it. And dumping it doesn't help anybody out because dumping it will just drive the price all wonky for everybody else. And I mean, regardless of like what each individual technology does, I think that, a decentralized currency and utilizing otherwise unused resources is always a good thing. So I'm behind that idea or that principle in general, right? So keeping it alive is good.
Have you been keeping track of the Ethereum price lately?
Yeah, I've noticed it's been going down.
Do you think there's any correlation to the graphics cards being sold out and the price going down? Because you mentioned that it's getting harder. That means
Well,
more people must be mining.
I thought the initial drop was because the ICO dropped, right? That was the first big drop where it went down to like 10 cents and then restabilized back up to like 250, something like that.
Well, that was from somebody actually dumping their coins, and probably one of the original investors back when it was pre-mined.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 100,000 coins being dumped on GDAX, and that it dropped it. It cost a little cascade of margin calls where it went down to 10 cents. But the weird part was, it's so weird for an exchange to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I'll pay for all your losses and then some." It almost seems like somebody wanted that trade to go through and not get reversed, and then Coinbase not get the backlash for having that margin drop. It seems like somebody really wanted to cash out.
Right.
And
How do
ever
you
since
feel about Coinbase? Because I've heard a lot of people are not like big on Coinbase. Like I don't know if they're kind of like the Walmart of wallets.
Well, Brian, do you have any experience with Coinbase?
Yes, I do. Everything most of what I have, I've gotten through Coinbase, and it's not a lot. My problem with Coinbase is you don't hold your private key, and if you don't hold your private key or any kind of, then you don't hold the currency. So That's
Yeah,
why I
I
like
hold
it.
it. I hold mine on a wallet on my mining rig, and then I have it backed up with another like hardware wallet on a USB stick. So I put everything off of the cloud, right? Unless I'm going to trade it or cash it out.
I didn't have any problems in the couple of times that I've used it, though. It worked well. It was quick, but this was also right when I started out too, and so everything was a lot quicker because the prices were lower and wasn't as much new traffic into the
So,
network.
so you think it's not there's no it's a baseless fear, but there's a fear just because of how large Coinbase is. Does that make sense? Like, because I don't understand the sentiment behind it, but I hear it a lot. Like, don't use Coinbase. We don't like Coinbase. And I guess
Well,
some people said there was a fear that they might be like PayPal and turn into that stuff.
of course, you can't hack the blockchain, but if someone utilizes SQL databases and HTTPS and all kinds of other platforms and integrate it into the blockchain, then there are ways that people can hack the system and point coins to other wallets and whatnot. So it's a possible, very possible reality. Um, Also, with Coinbase, as opposed to say a peer-to-peer transaction, they want increasing levels of identification and
I
financial
did notice that because
information.
back when I bought some Bitcoin with them way back when, it was pretty simple. And then I got back on it just to buy some. I think it was I wanted to buy some ETH to move it into, or I bought some Bitcoin. I don't remember what, just because I wanted to move it into my Jax wallet, and then I like shifted it to Golem. But I went in there, and then it was like, no, you're gonna need to submit an ID, and then I was like, dang, it's getting really hard to buy this stuff. So
Right.
I did notice
Uh,
that they put a lot more, but that didn't seem like a negative. That seemed like better security, but also slightly, I guess, an invasion of privacy at the same time, right? Because if the goal or the principles behind cryptocurrency in general, it seems like doing that sort of stuff, it defeats the purpose of like decentralized like transactions. And I don't know. It just seems like it's counter to the ideals of what cryptocurrency is, right?
sure, now those particular Bitcoins have an address and a bank account linked to them. I'll
Right.
give Coinbase kudos though. Hold on a second. Um, when the IRS came knocking on their door, they didn't just fold and hand them over all of the records and their customer base. They said, no, you need to come with a subpoena for one person from a court, but we're not going to just hand over all of our customer base to you.
Well,
Okay.
But
Brian, let me come in a little bit. Coinbase would have folded if it wasn't for another group, an attorney who was a customer at Coinbase, Weiss and Burns, who stood up first. He stood up first and said, "I'm going to represent. I'm going to represent myself and all the Coinbase users and put a stop to this summons." And then after that, Coinbase said, okay, yeah, we'll do the same thing too." So I wouldn't give Coinbase too much credit, because if Weiss and Burns didn't step in, they would have handed over everything.
well, I take that back. I take back all that credit and I give it to Weiss and Burns.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you my experience with Coinbase. Uh, when I first started, it it wasn't easy. I think I still had to offer some identification, and so it was a know your customer and money laundering stuff that I had to do. I provided all that, my credit card, everything, ID, my social security number, because after that they asked me like 3 different questions regarding my past, which I had to answer correctly. And then on top of that, they sent money to my bank account, and then I had to tell them how much was put in, and they took it back out. And this was back when they were the weekly allowance the maximum weekly allowance was 10 Bitcoins. So it wasn't a number, it was a Bitcoin value. So I did all that, and you know, I was approved, and I got up to a certain level, up to like $50,000 of buy and sell that I could do. And so I never tested that out. I just left it as is. I bought a couple. It went through fine. I bought it to buy gift cards, and then I bought some for trading on the exchanges, and then I bought some for trading peer to peer. But once I started trading peer to peer, all of a sudden my limits got severely restricted. The Bitcoins I sent to Coinbase to cash out to my bank account would refuse the deposit, and it would go back to Coinbase. So the sale was never made. And then other times, there was a period where if you bought anything over $1,000, you had to wait a week in order to receive your coins. So I bought like I think I bought about $4,000 because the price kind of started going down, and I said to myself, "This is a great time to buy." Well, a week later, to protect me, according to Coinbase, to protect me from making money, because after that, a week later, the price went up, spiked right back up. I would have made money on those coins. Well, Coinbase decided to protect me by not giving me those coins. They canceled that order. They canceled that trade. So my feelings about Coinbase is not very good. Now I can't even deposit any coins. They won't allow me to deposit any coins to my Coinbase account. So my Coinbase is essentially useless.
So then my question is, what are other options for converting from any sort of crypto to like US dollar?
Okay. Well, I've been trying to tell this to all my audience and to everybody that I ever interact with, is there is none. Okay. Bitcoin's your best shot because that's the only network that I know, the only coin that I know where you can transact peer to peer outside the bank and outside of regulation. And you are legally, as an individual, if you own those coins, you rightfully mined them, you rightfully bought them, or maybe you even rightfully scammed them, quote unquote, maybe even scammed them, or you got them somehow. You can sell them out into the open market peer to peer, and that's probably the best way to do it. Other than that, all other coins, Ethereum, Litecoin, I haven't had any experience of any peer to peer trades.
But you can always shift those back and forth, right?
Well, that's all virtual, but you asked for US dollars.
Right.
Like
yeah.
Eventually you want to use them, so you either shift them to maybe a Bitcoin or maybe a Litecoin where there's places that accept them. But other than that, you want to actually use them for just about anything. You trade them for dollars, and then you spend your dollars.
Keith in chat saying he uses BTC-E. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, they don't allow any withdrawals.
Okay.
To U.S. citizens. And you can't even fund it. You can't even send them any money. You have to send them your cryptocurrency only.
Oh, okay. We're
Brian.
Yeah, maybe we're confused there. Got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can trade all the virtual currency you want for another virtual currency. At the end of the day, all you have left is a virtual currency. So unless you can go to an exchange,
right,
that's willing, and right now there's not that many GDAX, an actual exchange, not Coinbase, because sometimes they close down. Like when the price spikes up and you want to sell your coins, they close down. When the price spikes down, everyone wants to buy, they close down. So you can go to GDAX, you can go to Bitstamp, has Bitcoin and Litecoin. They have wire withdrawals, Gemini. But again, those are all regulated exchanges, and you have to provide a lot of information.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious what the options were. That clears up a lot, actually. That's interesting. So the best idea would go peer-to-peer and then just shift any other currency into Bitcoin, right?
That's what everybody does. I don't know if whether they like to admit it or not. At the end of the day, all these miners, even you mentioned nice hash, all if you do nice hash, all they do is they mine altcoins for you, and
Right.
then
They just pick
eventually
whichever
they
one.
change them for Bitcoin, and you get Bitcoin.
Right.
So I mean, there's really no market for these altcoins. It's only, as far as I know, only Bitcoin. Now it may change in the future, but so far that future hasn't really come.
You
Cool.
mean nobody on the streets has asked you for Ethereum or Dash or Litecoin?
No, nobody has ever,
They
and
got
I have
trusty.
never tried to ask anybody to buy for those coins either.
Hey, buddy, can I get? I need that ETH right now, man.
Put an M in front of it, then maybe so.
uh, yeah,
So
no, not many people even like. And I work in IT, and I don't run a lot across a lot of people that even mention or talk about crypto that often.
yeah, tell us what you do. Like what background you're in, what line of work you do.
I'm a systems administrator for an MSP, which is a like managed service provider. So I do pretty much virtualization environments for anything from medical to law offices, and we go in and revamp them, build them up, and a lot of exchange, like migrations and stuff like that. But basically everything built off of VMware, and then we're partnered with HP, so a lot of HP hardware.
Oh, Matthew, I forgot to mention, when you do peer-to-peer, you have an opportunity to charge a premium on the Bitcoin price, and the range, it ranges. You can go to local Bitcoin and see what the premiums are, but selling it peer-to-peer, there's a premium cost because it's really hard to get, and you get there's a sense of you pay premium for the anonymity, the privacy. You don't have to reveal your information to get Bitcoin. So there's a little caveat on that as well.
Right, which was one of the worries I was bringing up with, like, I guess Coinbase, right? Is that you lose that anonymity right off the bat if you use Coinbase at all for any trading.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they probably track some of my trades, and that's why they would not sell me any more Bitcoin, because I was trading them peer to peer, and maybe somebody used it for something, and so that's a problem. They track your Bitcoins.
Okay, got it. So they'll track the actual coin itself, so they know how many people have, I guess, traded that particular one as well. Like they'll trace all that info.
Yeah, they can keep track of it, and that's kind of why a lot of people don't like Coinbase, is because they become an agent of the FBI and the IRS now.
Yeah, they become the thing that is what is the like I said, they become the thing that is the opposite of the original intent of a cryptocurrency, right?
Right, and they become heavily centralized. So yeah, a lot, they're when I first got in, I didn't understand that meaning to a centralized system. What exactly did that mean? Like, because I never knew a life without a centralized system.
Right.
And then as soon as I got into Bitcoin, all of a sudden I understood what it means to be outside the system, right? No one's really tracking. I mean, you could be tracked. It's open. It's public. But it's outside of the bank. It's outside of the IRS. It's outside the government. You're directly working with other people, and that's a little alluring to me because I've never experienced that before.
Yeah, and like I said, like the principles, I've always been interested in. Now, maybe you could clarify what is Ethereum as far as what is it used for? What are the purposes of it now? I guess on the coding side, what are they using it for? Because like each altcoin or base, right, is used for different things. Like Bitcoin's used to validate transactions from peer to peer, right, every time, and that's the point of it. What is Ethereum exactly?
Brian, would you like to answer that?
Oh, Ethereum. Ethereum is going to replace Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin 2.0. See, it uses smart contracts, and these smart contracts are going to facilitate all types of global transactions. It's going to disrupt anything that uses logistics, financial data, uh, large quantities of data of any kind, shipping registers. It will allow them to automatically set in this contract that upon a certain variable happening, then the payment will go out. Of course, the only smart contracts that we've seen so far are ones that have been made to buy tokens in ICO sales.
Right.
Those are the only ones I know of.
I think Brian's being a little sardonic there, but that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
we haven't seen any smart contracts. You know,
well,
the great promise of Ethereum has been only to buy more tokens that's created on the Ethereum network and bloat it.
well, how about Matthew? Have you heard about the DAO?
Oh,
DAO or DAP or
The
no? I don't think.
DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. That
No,
was
I
one of the
haven't.
first. That was the first smart contract of Ethereum, and basically what it was a smart contract. What you see now, a bunch of ICOs, right? These token sales that you see now. So that was the first one. Essentially, what it
Okay.
was, and this is what most ICO tokens are. It was a way to fundraise a fundraiser. It was a way to fundraise a fundraising organization, which makes no sense. So the DAO was supposed to be basically they had a token sale. You gave up your first of all you had to give up your Bitcoin to get Ethereum, and then you had to use
Okay.
Ethereum to put into this DAO crowd sale to get the DAO tokens. And they raised like 150 million. This was their first ever, ICO token. Well, eventually there was many coding flaws in that particular DAO, and it was so hyped. It was ridiculously hyped. People were tweeting that the DAO, the decentralized or autonomous organization,
Yeah,
was
I'm
gonna
tracking.
was gonna save the whales, like the mammals in the ocean. They were gonna save the whales. People were tweeting this out. It was ridiculous. It was gonna do amazing things. It was gonna revolutionize business because people who own the tokens can essentially dictate where the money could be spent and what do
So,
they want to spend the money on.
there's nothing at the app level or at application levels that Ethereum's used for at
You
all.
talking about the DApps?
Yeah, like are there any applications like
Well,
that companies are using the?
there's nobody using them. There is a website. I think it's like ether.org/DApps, and the what I've seen from other YouTubers trying to use DApps was a video game like Asteroids
Okay.
that you would burn your Ethereum token for some reason to play this game.
Hmm.
That's what I've seen so far, but there's no real dApps being used. And let me go back to the DAO. I'll try to explain to you a little bit more. Um, so so the so the DAO eventually got hacked. There was an exploit where someone was able to withdraw the DAO tokens
Mm-hmm.
before
Okay.
anybody else could to themselves, right?
Right.
Now here's
Okay.
the thing: is there was a 30-day delay before they could receive their Ethereum. So it was one DAO token equaled one Ethereum. So this guy was literally taking out $30 million of DAO tokens. And so what happened was to save the investors and the stakeholders of this DAO, which were a lot of the people in the Ethereum Foundation and a lot of the people who invested in creating Ethereum, they put a lot of money into this DAO. So they reversed the transactions of the DAO. So they gave the Ethereum back to the people who invested in it. And that caused the split. And that's why you have Ethereum and Ethereum
Classic.
Classic. Yes. And what Ethereum Classic did is they continued on with the original fork of Ethereum, and that DAO did happen. And the hacker, I won't even call it a hacker. It was an exploit that someone took advantage of. They
Right.
got their Ethereum Classic, and then the fork, which is Ethereum now, is basically that never happened. The DAO never happened in history. They
Huh.
just wiped it out, and so that was their first contract, and that's what happened. Now, ever since then, they've been doing the same thing. The only difference is they check the code this time. They're checking the code once, maybe twice, make sure there's no exploit. And in my opinion, Ethereum is nothing but a cover for a Ponzi, basically. So they
Okay.
created this token in which you have to buy other tokens, which were created out of thin air. And so there's these projects that people have going on that don't do anything. They're just ideas at
Hmm.
most, at best. At worst, they're just a way to sucker in people into buying useless tokens. So you have to give up you have to give up your money to buy Ethereum to buy the tokens, or you have to give up your Bitcoin to buy Ethereum to buy these tokens. And the first thing a lot of people are doing, in my opinion, is they're dumping these coins to get their money back in Ethereum, and then they're going back into another ICO token. That's why you see all these ICOs coming out one day after another after another. So
Right.
you got this Ponzi machine. It's just a perpetual motion Ponzi machine. And I think what's happening now is I think it was Status was the ICO that basically congested the Ethereum blockchain to the point where nobody could transact on the blockchain. Exchanges would not allow you to withdraw your Ethereum off the exchanges.
Hmm.
It just caused a backlog so big that everybody had to freeze their transactions for a moment in time, at least a day. And ever since then, I think a lot of people are realizing this platform is unstable, and I think that's why you saw the huge sell price on GDAX, and ever since then, the price has just been slowly and slowly going down.
Declining. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are seeing the big picture that this is a huge mistake, in my opinion.
So what are the options if you want to support, decentralized currency and an altcoin, I guess, other than Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin the only option? What's your opinion on other ICOs, and what is mineable, I guess, too, would be a question that would be better served, for miners. What would be a better coin to work with?
Well, that's a tough question. Do you want to answer, or Brian? You want to try at it?
Um, well, in the short term, all of these tokens and Ethereum are going to be profitable, right? There's speculation on all of them. Long term, they're not good holds, but in the short term, you can make money mining these things. Um,
So
then
mine
again,
it and dump it.
well, you could do that infrastructure. We've also learned that the best time to mine is when you're mining at a loss. What all these folks do, they'll switch around to different tokens. They'll mine different things
Right.
on the blockchain, right? And from the people with whom we've spoken so far and had on the show, every time they're mining at a loss, they're getting more coin. So, in the future, they're actually going to have more money.
Right. You want to mine when it's not when the chain's easy to mine, as far as like from what I've read, right? Or from what I understand so far. So a lot of guys that were mining when I guess it would be mining at a loss, but I guess that would be investor mining almost, as
Right.
opposed to profit mining. But the kick right
Yeah.
now is the profit mining with Ethereum, right? I mean, that's what's popular, or that's what the kids are doing these days.
Yeah, what I think is the best time to mine really is when the new coin comes out. That's probably the best time to mine. So you see a lot of people hang out on the Bitcoin talk forums or Reddit, and
Yeah.
and that's how they're marketed with these new altcoins. I'll call them altcoins. Altcoins were like the original ICOs back in 2013 and 14. You saw a lot of these coins come out. If you mined some of them and you waited all this time, you probably would have been a millionaire. You know, there was a good chance. But essentially, mining is nothing more than buying buying the coins. And essentially, the only
Right.
difference is you're minting them. You just have to find your average cost per coin, whatever your cost is over time, divided by how many coins. That's what the price would be. If it's lower than the market price, you made out pretty good. If you're willing to hold on to it long enough and wait for a pop, like we've seen the last 10 months, you would have been rich essentially. You would have dumped those coins on the exchange to get Bitcoin, and find a way to cash out on your Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, and that
As
makes
far as
sense.
as far as which ones are best for the GPU miners, from what we've all discussed about Ethereum and its eventual crash, someone else is going to step up and take that platform position. So Ethereum Classic and Waves and Lisk, those have all been discussed as the next alternatives to Ethereum.
Right. Do you think that Zcash is like the safest for mining, possibly? Just to get your money out? I mean, I hear a lot. That seems to be what a lot of guys do, is just mine, like I said before, the Zcash, and then invest whatever they profit off of that into other coins. And then there are some that you just can't even mine yet, right? There's stuff like, I guess, like what Golem and so on and so forth, where you can't mine it yet. So you just want to stay on the market, or kind of keep your ear close to the ground and listen for what's new, and then try to get in when you can mine a lot, and then base it off of the amount of coins, not off of the value of those coins in US dollars, right?
So you want to? I'm assuming you want to start speculating and maybe get some of this money, that easy money that's been coming along here.
Well, I don't know if it's like speculate. I guess I'm just trying to get an idea of like strategies that you would use for mining, right? Uh, and I don't know what those would
Okay,
be, right?
the coins that aren't mineable, they're ICO, they're initial coin offerings. They're just
Right.
generated out of thin air, and they're sold to the general public. On those, you just want to get in as early as possible.
You just want to buy them when they're like dirt cheap, right?
When they're offered, when they're buying, when they're offered. Hold on to them, until they hit the market, and put a at least 2 times the money you put in, or 5 times the money you put in, and let the order book hit your order, and then cash out a Bitcoin, and you'll do fine. Matter of fact, Ken Bozak, he was in an ICO for mobile GoPro, and he bought it at 50 cents, is what he told us. It went up to $4. Now it's back down to $1, 50, trending downwards. So these ICOs they're just pump and dumps. You just buy them. You buy them, and they give you discounts for buying. How much?
Right.
Some give you 50% for buying a certain amount. And
So
as
when
soon
the
as they go on the
ICO
market,
when the ICO ends, that's when the mining begins to validate the transactions, right? Is that how I
oh no,
understand that?
oh no, there's
No?
there's no mining. They're essentially side chains. They're
Okay.
they're chain, like the Golem, I think, is side chain to Ethereum.
Ethereum. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is no mining. They just generated coins out of nothing, and they're basically hitched to Ethereum blockchain. That's why you still need Ethereum.
So you still have to have the Ethereum miners to validate the Golem transactions. Is that how
Well,
that
here's the other thing. They're talking about going to proof of stake. In other words, they're not going to do proof of work anymore. There will be no mining. You'll be staking.
Okay.
In other words, you have to have what a master node is?
No, not really. I'm not
Basically,
like
you have to have
not
a
in
whole
this.
shitload of Ethereum, and the people who have a shitload of Ethereum are now going to validate transactions. That's it. That's it. Just and that's your stake into it. You carry a
And
lot of Ethereum.
if you guess wrong, you get penalized and they take some of your Ethereum from you.
Yeah, they take all your Ethereum actually. If you have to be honest. If you're dishonest, like you're trying to do a 51% attack, or you're trying to validate a transaction that never happened, you're penalized. You lose 1,000 Ethereum. So
And
you have to
that's
have 1,000 Ethereum to do this, to be a master node.
okay. Huh.
And so they're
So
going they're going to that model. They're proof of work now, what you're doing,
right.
but they're going to go to a proof of stake,
But
which they
that's
don't
just
even know
for
how to do it.
Ethereum, right? That's
Yes.
okay. And then, I mean, Bitcoin will still be what Bitcoin is. Nobody's changing any of that up, or
So you haven't heard about the so have you
no?
heard
I'm
about the
not
drama about Bitcoin yet?
I have not. Tell me the Bitcoin drama.
All right, there's a fear. I don't. Do you want to explain this, Brian? No. Okay. All right. So there's been a scaling debate since I've been involved, and it's really gotten heated up. And a matter of fact, it's getting so heated to the point where we're learning that this is. It turns out this is nothing to do about scaling Bitcoin. It has to do about who wants to take control over the network. And so there's miners, specifically the
Okay.
Chinese miners, who want to take over control of the development of Bitcoin network, of the Bitcoin blockchain. And then we have the developers who want to essentially stay in power, be the developers for Bitcoin. And this has been going on for 3-4 years now. It's really gotten intensified to the point where we're playing basically a game theory. We're playing chicken with each other. And so we're they the Bitcoin developers recently came up with a Bitcoin improvement protocol or proposal. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's BIP 148, which forces the miners to signal for what's called segregated witness. And that's been the debate, is whether they want to keep a 1 megabyte or go to a larger megabyte. And there's various reasons for that. But recently, there's a potential to split this network. So there could be a chance that we could have a split in this network, and it's a war against the miners and basically the developers.
So
And the users
a
are caught
fork,
in the middle.
another fork, like you were talking about with the DAO on Ethereum, like that same
Yes.
concept. Okay.
Yeah, same concept.
And then
And
you would have the power to the miners and the power to the developers, essentially.
well, it's not that easy because developer, we need hash power. We need mining.
Right.
And the Chinese have at least 90, maybe 80% of the hash power. That's how centralized and concentrated it's been over there. And that's why Brian wanted to bring you on to get your thoughts about trying to bring that hash power more, to have a more distributed hash power.
Yeah, for ASICs, I don't know how you would really pull that over here because you're talking. I mean, we already don't have the most reliable power grid.
Yes,
Like,
and it's not very cheap either. So it's costs money to do this. So there's been a talk about doing the split, and if the split happens, what the core developers want to do, and I think they may have to, is do a proof of work change, in which they change the algorithm, which would essentially reset the mining. Now I don't know if they're going to allow it to go and stay as an ASIC, or whether we can use GPU or go back to CPU mining. And that's the situation we're in right now.
I mean,
So
to me, the best idea is going back to like a GPU, CPU mining, and then getting the everyday Joe to be contributing all the power in his pocket or at home that he's not currently using to do this sort of thing. I think that's, to me, that's kind of the dream or the big idea, right? Is doing this not with I guess what you would call like mining whales, these bigger corporations in China and so on and so forth that just take the whole thing away and almost like in my opinion, pull a Coinbase and defeat the purpose of it. I would like to see mining go back to, you know, in people's houses and sheds and, you know, spare parts, right? I think if you could get it to where it was running off cell phones in the background while it's in people's pockets, that would be ideal, right? To me,
Yeah, I
that
mean
would be the
that's
coolest way to
yeah,
go.
I think so. I mean, because that was the whole point of Bitcoin was to be decentralized. But you know, I'm wondering, and I'm seriously contemplating whether this is a failed experiment in some ways. Because if you
It's
can't keep it,
inevitable to go to, yeah, to become
yeah,
centralized no matter
to
what.
be,
You can't. It's inevitable. Yeah, I don't.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and maybe we're just foolish, right? We're just foolish to believe that we all can be decentralized and have it distributed in a way that it can't be compromised.
Fair,
Um,
anonymous, and uncompromised. Yeah, that's. I mean,
yeah,
those are.
uncensored, distributed, and 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 it's more spread out because the whole point of this, if you centralize it, people can rewrite history. People can change your balance. And this whole Bitcoin idea birthed from the financial crisis where people were playing around with numbers
Hmm.
that didn't really exist, and that's what got us in trouble. And so, if we're going to go back to that, you might as well just drop everything, just sell your Bitcoin. I mean, just forget about what they call China coin or Jihawu coin. Forget about that because you just might as well just go back to where we all came from, which is the
Yeah.
regulated centralized
Just
systems that we came from.
so I mean, for us now, I mean, just get what you can, get yours while you can, and then get out. I don't know. That's interesting. I wasn't sure. I didn't know about the drama. Uh, it's cool to learn about it. I don't know what that really means for.
Well, James, can you go into what SegWit could do for Bitcoin and where Segment's been implemented so far?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's tied to Coinbase.
I'm sorry. What's the last part?
And it's tied to Coinbase.
Okay, Coinbase. All right, SegWit was something that the Bitcoin Core developers came up for the scaling, what they thought was about scaling, and so it basically you could stuff more transaction into a 1 megabyte block size, effectively making it a 2 megabyte block,
Okay.
effectively, and that also fixed a transaction malleability, which has been kind of a problem, like people trying to double spend, and that would also help with a second layer called Lightning. And so when they introduced that and tried to get it into the Bitcoin protocol, it was mysteriously, for very strange reason, blocked by the Chinese miners, specifically Chinese miners. And so Litecoin, which is very close to Bitcoin, Charlie Lee decided to see if he could implement SegWit on Litecoin. And there was even a struggle then because a lot of the mining is done in China. But eventually he got that done. And Charlie Lee, of course, worked at Coinbase. And he also got Coinbase to list Litecoin. And since then, and I don't know if you've been keeping track of Litecoin price,
Mm-hmm.
but the
Yeah.
price of Litecoin went from $3 to $50.
Right.
And no one's even using Litecoin. This is just on speculation that it implemented SegWit and that it might be used in the future, you know, as a Lightning network. And it has a lot of benefits. It got rid of the transaction malleability. You could transact faster, and also you could do which I have a big interest in is cross-chain swaps, atomic swaps. So you set up a node, a Lightning node, with another SegWit implemented blockchain, hopefully Bitcoin, and you can connect the two nodes off the Lightning network, and you'll be able to have a decentralized exchange. So you have to have a certain amount of Litecoin and a certain amount of Bitcoin, and people can trade through that node. You could set the spread, and you would be able to make some money on that. I don't know how much, but essentially it's a decentralized exchange that you don't have to sign up for. You just have to somehow make an agreement or do something, and it would either do it, it would make the trade, or it would not make the trade at all. And so there's a huge potential here, and unfortunately, a lot of it's being held back because of something which I either control. People want control of the network, or there's another thing. Have you heard about ASIC boost?
No, what's ASIC? I guess what's the boost portion of that?
ASIC boost. Well, I think this was patented. I don't know who patented this, but basically it was an energy efficiency on ASICs that allowed you to basically mine Bitcoin with less energy. Well, someone took that and made a covert version, so when you're mining, no one was able to realize they're using this patent.
So
this covert version.
So it was blocking the actual version.
Well, I'm not sure what you're meaning by that, but it turns out that a lot of the one Pacific Chinese miner and manufacturer of ASICs is using this form of ASIC boost, covert ASIC boost, supposedly covert ASIC boost, and patented it in China, used it on the Bitcoin testnet, but claims that he's never used it or it's never been allowed to use on the Bitcoin network. But some of the symptoms of using ASIC boost is you mine partial blocks or empty blocks, and a lot of it has been coming out of China.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of people have now surmised that a lot of people have surmised that that's the reason why they want to block SegWit, because SegWit would no longer allow that function to work. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but there's got to be a reason why the Chinese miners don't want SegWit or want to take over control of SegWit. So I know you don't know much about it, but this is the drama that's coming on right now, and this has been what's been holding everything back. And if you look at what happened to Litecoin went to $3 to $50.
Yeah, I saw the rise. I didn't know that was the reason why.
Well, that's the speculation. A lot of people are speculating. Now, my conclusion from looking at Litecoin would be, okay, if you did that with Bitcoin, it would probably go up to $5,000, maybe $10,000, because there's a lot of people like speculating on this, and that'd be good for me because I have Bitcoin. But there's this drama going on where we don't know what's going on, and there's a hard fork that's supposed to happen. Now what's happened recently is that the miners have tried to adopt SegWit with a 2 megabyte increase, and that's what they're wanting. Now,
Yeah.
now I don't know why they want a 2 megabyte increase, but the thinking is that they want a 2 megabyte increase to basically have a head start on the mining against the rest of the world. So when they're mining, when they find a block, everybody else is behind. They have to follow the Chinese miners. So that gives them an edge. And that's why they want 2 megabytes. If they're going to lose their ASIC boost, they want a head start because they're already centralized in a lot of ways. And with the larger block size, that would put everybody else who has a smaller mining at home or a smaller mining pool, that would put them behind. So they would always be behind of finding a new block. So that's the debate right here. I mean, that's what it essentially it's come down to. Essentially, it comes down to greed. No, so what are your feelings on this? I mean, I've told you what I think is going on. I mean, you could do some research yourself and
yeah,
people have.
I'm not sure I fully understand everything. I mean, I when you start talking about like increasing the size or that part of the block that they're getting, that starts to make a little bit more sense. As far as like all the mining going on in China, I mean, that's kind of how much of it is controlled? I mean, everything in China is technically controlled by the government by some form or fashion. So is all of the mining done primarily under like a single entity, or is it spread
Well,
across?
there's one manufacturer of 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 miners. That's Bitmain, and
Okay.
essentially everybody buys from Bitmain, the miners. But there's many pools. But there's one pool in particular called Ampool that's basically controlled by Bitmain. Maybe even several. So you got the manufacturer making them, and then going across the street and starting mining.
Right.
So they have a head start in that. So I would say it's heavily concentrated. I mean, are you suggesting that there may be a state intervention going on here?
Well, I mean, they already block a lot of internet access, and they control a lot of the internet. So any of that stuff, any of that information that's going in and out of China is going through the government, right? I mean, it has to.
Yeah. So maybe the Chinese government is involved. Maybe they're trying to take over Bitcoin, or
Trying to,
worse, trying to
maybe they're the
kill it.
ones blocking that. I don't know, trying to kill it or something. I don't know, just a weird, crazy tin. I think I left my tinfoil hat in the closet, but I'll try to pull that out next time. I don't know. It sounds interesting. I don't know how much of it. I guess what would the question be? I think pushing miners out is a bad idea, but I don't think that the current state of the miners, being where they're at and being controlled primarily by one company is the way any of this was supposed to go down in the long run, right? And so, yeah, I mean, maybe they just need to reboot, restart, start from scratch again.
Do a proof of work change and just start another chain.
Yeah.
I mean, it would kill a lot of people in the short term, but in the long term, do you think it would recover?
I think it could, right? If you could do it properly. I think one of the things, if you're talking from like my perspective as a miner, one of the things that I thought that they did good with Ethereum was kind of, or not kind of, but make you download the entire blockchain to mine it. And that prevents a lot of the manipulation that could be done from the the miners' perspectives, and it prevents all the ASICs. So I think that puts it more into the hands of the people as far as for mining, or from the perspective of mining. But I understand a little bit better what is wrong with the actual transactions and what Ethereum is now by talking with y'all. So that's eye-opening, to say the least. So that's good to know.
Let me ask you: would you buy Ethereum?
Would I buy Ethereum? I have bought Ethereum as a test. I sold a GPU and bought Ethereum with the money from the GPU as a, what do you call it? As a test, yeah, just as a test for fun to see what happens, right?
But what about as an investment?
Would I buy Ethereum as an investment? I don't know if I'd ever buy. Technically, I am, right? Because I'm mining. I invested money into the hardware. I'm mining, and then I'm keeping what I've earned from mining. So technically, I am. I can't say that I wouldn't, because I am. But would I actually take out money out of my 401k and put it into Ethereum? Fuck no. No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, what about Bitcoin? Now that you heard about this drama, would you buy Bitcoin at all for investment?
Yeah, because I think it's only going to go up either way, right?
Okay, so you wouldn't buy Ethereum, but you would, even though this drama with the hard fork, with the centralization, with mining, and maybe a possible split, you would still buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, because the way you explained it, I mean, to me, it sounds like if it splits and some of this gets implemented, the original Bitcoin would go up, right?
Yeah, I mean, eventually they're both going to get SegWit because some other stuff happened. But anyway, yeah, if it does split, they're both going to get SegWit. Just one's going to have a 2 megabyte, the other one's going to remain 1 megabyte. So they'll be able to do a second layer Lightning transactions. So okay, all right, that's good. I'm surprised. I figured you would say fuck no to that too after hearing everything.
I don't know. The way you explained it, or the idea sounds a little bit different than what's going on with ETH, right? Because ETH sounds more like of a manipulation of the market, right? I mean, it sounds like when people launder money and they shovel out their cash from the business that they owned, and then they spend it back on their own business again. You know.
So that's that's exactly
Like,
Ethereum. Basically, you know what? Some people argue that Ethereum was illegal to begin with. It was an
okay.
illegal security sale, is what they've done. And now that they made so much money, they're trying to again launder the money through these ICOs to make it seem like they made a legitimate gain and then cash out. And
Got it.
so, wow, this is coming from someone who's just right. Good point. Good point. Hey,
Yeah,
Brian,
I mean, I did just watch The Accountant yesterday, so maybe maybe it had to do with that. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking The Accountant the whole time. By the way, if you haven't watched that movie, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Check it out.
Hey, Brian, did you have any more questions?
Well, yeah, if we changed over to a proof of work, did a proof of work change and somehow made GPU mining possible for Bitcoin, that could be the thing that brings the gamers over. That could be what, we were discussing. How possible is it, do you think, that we could actually get that change done? I don't know, like, what it would require.
Us? No, there's probably no. I mean, probably nothing you could do. I'm not familiar enough with how the code behind Bitcoin works to know what you would have to do to reboot that. I think the only other things you could do for, like, I guess, a proof of work would be to force more accountability within the transactions. I don't know how you would do that either, though. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not on the level of the developers, so I don't really know.
Do you test out CPUs and motherboards as well as video cards?
Yeah, I do.
So do you think we have the ability to get the chipset technology to make miners that could compete with the ones from Bitmain?
From what I've heard and the research I've done on that in the past, when ASICs first became a thing, it was kind of like a no. That was kind of too difficult to do. I mean, there are people that have built, I think early on, there were ASICs miners, other companies doing ASICs miners or building them. But if you're talking about running that out of your home, it's kind of hard to do. There's not a secondary purpose for an ASICs miner, right? That's the issue. If you're talking about wanting to create something that's decentralized, that is open to everybody, then the transactions need to be validated by a device that everybody has access to and uses for other purposes. So cell phones, desktops, laptops, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Right.
You know, what's interesting is there's a company called 21 Co. that raised a lot of money that actually said something just like that. Your cell phones, all your electronics would be mining Bitcoin.
Right.
I haven't heard anything with them. I don't know if they're planning on anything like that. This may be a chance for them to actually do something since they're the ones that proposed this idea. If there ever was going to be a proof of work change, that all your electronic devices would be mining Bitcoin and you could actually send payments to different electronic devices.
That's the only way to take it out of the hands of a centralized company, right? The problem is a lot of users, unfortunately, are going to consider that malware.
Yes, and malware has been used to mine for coins, by the way. So
yeah,
yes,
no, yep. But that's the issue, right? Like, you would have to find a way to give reasonable payouts or something like that. And I don't know how you would do that and be a legitimate piece of software. So that's kind of hard.
Yeah,
A
that's
hard
probably
one.
why 21 Co probably never did anything. They found it to be too difficult. You would have to do
They probably went out and
microtransactions.
said that to somebody, and somebody went, "You mean like malware?" And then they were like, "Oh, sorry, yeah." Yeah, that's the biggest issue I see right off the bat, with that idea. At the same time, that is kind of the whole point, is to utilize unused power and validate transactions outside of a single organization. Yeah, but I don't know how you get past that. I really don't.
Right. I remember the PlayStations had those protein folding routines that you could run in the background on your PlayStation to help find a search for cancer. And they've got the SETI project where you can donate space and processor time toward it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
you try to come up with something like that that's easy for people to turn on. I mean, if you think about the fact that, I mean, for GPU mining, some of the most powerful GPUs for that is AMD, right? And it's the AMD, RX 480s, 580s, stuff like that. It goes further back, but every single current modern gaming console is running one of those GPUs in it right now. They just are. And they're all sitting there in standby mode, not doing anything right now.
right.
Probably.
Do the PlayStation 3s also have those? Because like people have multiple game systems, right? They probably have like the PS, PS2, PS3, PS4.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't. I don't remember. Well, the 360 had a Radeon, but they didn't have as much VRAM on them. They didn't have enough VRAM to really push well. Depending on ETH is a special case because of the requirement of downloading the whole blockchain onto the video memory. But I don't know. But yeah, that idea, tapping into all of that older hardware. I mean, tapping into the consoles would be a pretty crazy one, because each one could easily get just using ETH, mining ETH as an example, or just because I know the hash rates off the top of my head. An Xbox One and a PlayStation 4 would probably be hashing around 25 to 30 mega hash a second. So, that's quite a bit of power just sitting there not doing anything for at least 8 hours a day while people are at work, and another 8
What
hours while they're sleeping. So,
I mean, what kind of return could you get with that mega hash over a week or a month?
and that's the other problem, right? Is it's gotten more and more difficult. But let's say we went to I can do the calc actually real easy, real quick. So 30. Let's say it's 90 watts of power consumption. You're looking at $87.98 a month right now off of a single console that's not doing anything.
Matthew, let me ask you another question, because you actually do mine and you know something about hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with cloud mining?
So I looked into NiceHash does some cloud mining, right? A little bit but I don't really understand it all the way. Meaning, so I work in IT, like we talked about earlier, and the term cloud is super deceptive because a lot of people say we sell cloud services and so on and so forth. We're still just selling you a partial use of a processor and storage in some warehouse in the Midwest. I mean, it's still PC components. So when people use that, I feel like it's just a throwaway term for not in your house, but somewhere else. And I don't understand what cloud mining cloud mining to me from like NiceHash is I go on, I sign up, I say I have this hardware, I download NiceHash to my system, then somebody comes and cloud mines with it and essentially rents my power from me to mine what they want. But the hardware's still there. The hardware's still probably in my house, right? So,
well, that's like a pool, but cloud mining now means that you pay other people to mine for you, and
yeah,
they'll give you
but I
Bitcoin
mean,
or whatever
but you're
coin that
still,
you're mining.
yeah, but you're still paying to use that. That is what NiceHash does. NiceHash has that option, right?
Okay. Like, are you
So
familiar
you
with
go,
Genesis mining and then
you
hashing
buy, yeah,
T4?
yeah, you go and you buy the hash power, right?
Right. For a
And
contract or
then,
limited for some time, for like 1 year, lifetime, whatever it may be.
yeah,
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that? I mean, because you're coming from an IT background, and most of the people who buy into this, they don't know anything about hardware or anything about IT, and
To
they're
me, it sounds
pitching
like
it.
a terrible idea. I mean, I'd either rather have my own hardware. So worst case, if this whole thing crashes, I have something to sell, right? Um, or I would rather just buy the actual coins. Buying hash power is just kind of weird. I don't really get the appeal to it, right? Because you're still just paying for hardware somewhere else to
Okay,
do
what
it.
if I told you if you signed up and you used a referral program, and if you use this referral program, they'll give you a little bit more hash power, and not only that, but you can get the same people who signed up to upgrade their contract, and they'll add on to your hash power.
So
What if I told you that, and
you're
then
talking about a pyramid scheme? Is that what you're talking about?
no, I'm not. I'm talking about a referral program. I'm not
No,
talking
yeah.
about a pyramid scheme at all.
No, never. That would never be what it is. Yeah, I mean that's how, and it seems obvious to me, but I guess yeah, I don't know. Like I go to even because I even had like NiceHash tweet at me because at one point I was like, yeah, I went to the website. It seems a little sketchy, and then they're like, oh no, it's not, and I was like, I don't know. I go here and it says buy hash power, and I'm like, why wouldn't I just buy the coin? Like I don't get it. And then yeah, it does that thing with referral codes, and yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
They give
I
you
just wanted someone's
fancy charts
perspective,
though.
an unbiased, because obviously you don't cloud mine.
No, I
Okay,
would.
I just want your perspective on. I tell people I'm not stupid enough to cloud mine, and they take offense to it. I mean, I don't know why.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it seems
Okay,
kind
thank you, Matthew. Does it? Do you have any more questions? I'm about to wrap this up. It's about an hour and 30 minutes. Thank you for coming on this show. Do you
Thanks
have
for
any
having
more
me.
questions for Matthew, Brian? Okay, Matthew. Before we leave, tell everybody where they can find you.
If you just search "son of a tech" in Google, I'll come up pretty much everywhere. You'll probably find some super embarrassing stuff in me, so definitely do it. You can also find me on Twitter at son of a tech. Tweet at me anytime. I'm a very sociable person, meaning that I'll tweet you junk at 2 in the morning on a Saturday if you're bored. And I hope to see you guys over there. See you on my YouTube. Like I said, just son of a tech. And I'm kind of on a doing mining videos. So I'm going to go through BIOS setups for MSI motherboards, configuring a Windows 10 system, configuring a Linux system, and it's more just for fun and education. And I will also do GPU reviews. And I think I have a review for the Netgear Orbi coming up. So if you guys are looking into mesh networks, come check that out.
Okay, and I put your link to your YouTube page in the notes section. So if people want to find out more about you, it's down below in the notes. And
Perfect.
of
Thanks.
course, oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for taking the time, and just speaking your mind. It's a fresh of breath air in this space. I'll be honest with you. Okay, and Brian, of course, where can we find you, or what? Do you have anything new that you want to say?
No, I don't have anything new I want to say. You can leave a comment on one of my old YouTube videos. and that's basically it. Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Smoothbind.
Okay, excellent. And I do have an announcement. I'm kind of excited. I think Wednesday I'll have another live stream. Let me see what day is. I think it's the 12th or something. Let me just look it up real quick. But we have Jackson Palmer, who has been kind enough to agree to be on the show, and it'll be interesting to talk to him about Dogecoin and the recent arrest of Ryan Kennedy, who was a big scammer in that community, and his thoughts on Dogecoin now and all the ICOs and altcoins that are taking place. So let me find out the date on that. I think it's the 12th.
It's the
So
12th.
12th, yeah, 12th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you join us for that, really appreciate it. So until next time, everyone, stay tuned. Bye-bye.